to have a full house this evening. It is 7:01, and I'd like to call to order the regular business meeting of the Newmarket School Board, and we'll start this meeting, as we do all of them, with Catherine, our student representative, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. It's so nice to look out in the audience and see a lot of people. It's a novel concept as of late, so thank you all for coming. And with that, I will open it the evening to public comment. Members of the public are welcome to come to the microphone if they'd like to. And if you'd like to say something, please share your name, and we'll take it from there.
And if you're not here to complain, this is going to be really
Complaints are also welcome.
All right, I guess I will proceed with closing that public comment since no one jumped to the mic. And we'll proceed with the first order of our agenda, which is the reports, and we will start with Catherine's student report. Catherine, if you would.
So in the high school, Talent Night is coming up. That's November 3rd from 7 to 9. And the freshman fundraiser with Yankee Candle is wrapping up tomorrow. Those sales are made online, and information can be found on the school website if anyone's interested. Picture Day retakes in the high school are October 24th. There will be no school October 27th. The high school student council is hosting a sock drive for Families First in Portsmouth, and that's going on through October and the beginning of November. So sending your kids to school with extra pairs of socks that can be donated is
Clean.
yes.
I was gonna say, new ones?
Yeah, new clean socks. That will be very much appreciated by the families in Portsmouth. And trick or canning is going on Monday, October 30th. So if families in the community can leave their cans out if they receive flyers on their mailboxes or doorknobs, that would be appreciated as well. For sports, the girls' soccer has won their season 14-2 as soccer is ending its season. Boys soccer stands 8-8 at the end of their season. Unified soccer stands 1-5 at the end of their season. And football stands 4-2, with their next game being at Bishop Brady the 21st of October at 7 p.m. And then cross country has a home meet versus Dairyfield October 20th at 4 p.m. For the elementary school, they have picture retakes Wednesday, October 25th. And I think that's all for me.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Meredith, would you like to proceed with your report?
I would be happy to. Make sure I can read it. So this was a busy week on the legislative front for a couple of reasons. One, at the beginning of the week, I had the opportunity to meet with Legislator Cahill, again, just about building aid. It is coming into cloture for Senate bill submission. So he's been working to try to get some traction on potentially another building aid bill. And he also had a meeting with the governor this week to talk about the possibility of building aid. So that was a great opportunity just to sort of share again some highlights of our experience with the process and the application itself. So I appreciate his advocacy on that front. That evening, I attended the Exeter School Board legislative meeting. So it was a regional meeting with legislators from the area, and heard from several local legislators, including the chair of both the Ways and Means and the Finance Committee, about things that are kind of under consideration in the coming term. One of those that we anticipate moving forward, again, the choice charter school funding bills are out there again. So again, that's an area that could potentially impact our budget moving forward. We were reminded that, again, for FY19 only, we are projected to receive $1,100 per kindergartner through what's called the Kino Garden funds, which are funds generated through Kino revenues. Again, at this point, I think only one municipality in the state has approved Kino, that being Franklin. So whether or not there will be any additional funds remains to be seen, and there's no guarantee that those funds will continue beyond FY19. One of the other commissions that's working is a committee to review adequacy aid. The person who is chairing that committee shared that they are looking to make adjustments to the adequacy formula, including potentially removing the subsidies that are provided for students who receive free and reduced lunch. From his individual perspective, they'd like to be able to turn that into potentially a grant-based source, a competitive grant, so that districts would have to apply and demonstrate the growth for that population of students in order to continue to receive those funds. So it's very early in the legislative process, but they were very clear, the folks involved in both Ways and Means and Finance in their message that they don't anticipate any more funding coming our way, and that the retirement fund piece, they're also the gap between the promised pensions and the existing funds has continued to widen, so it may be that sometime in the next couple of years we also have further costs passed down to us as employers for employee retirement funds. So that wasn't a particularly encouraging meeting, but I hope that it's early enough in the process that we all have the chance to communicate with our legislative representatives about the concerns and the potential impact here. Fiscal notes to bills don't come until much further in the process, but certainly there's reason to be concerned about the future of state education funding and shifts in those funds.
It's interesting because I read an article in the paper this week about the outstanding performance of the pension fund, and it seemed to indicate that, as a reader, it seemed to indicate we were closing the gap, and that apparently is not.
Well, so the information provided by the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, who's been part of the pension fund deliberations, was that it was a $4.6 billion gap a couple years
Right.
ago, or a few years ago,
Right.
and it's now 5.1 according to the estimates he provided. So,
Wow.
again, they didn't have all of the data and analysis points that they were
Yeah.
speaking to with them at that time, but that was the takeaway. We have reason to be concerned about pension funding and
Right.
costs being passed on, as well as changes to the adequacy formula.
I think that's important for us to consider as we go into the budget process.
And voting,
Right.
November 7th. Your voice can be heard.
And I think it's interesting to note that I think the state budget is about $11.5 billion, and the pension fund deficit is $5.2 billion. That's a staggering concern.
And again, the pension fund is not, it's public employees that include police and
Right,
fire
right.
and teachers. It's not only an education
Right.
issue, but
Right.
Community builders, basically.
Yeah.
we did have a great turnout for our substitute orientation session. I think we
Good.
had about a dozen people who expressed interest in coming to sub for the district, so we hope they'll all return their applications and that we can work with them through the process to get them on board. And if you're interested, we still would welcome more subs. I attended tonight, before I came, a meeting with the Newmarket Business Association. The Newmarket Business Association joined with us, you may remember, last spring to form an education committee to really look at how schools can partner more with our local businesses. So several people that I spoke with, and Ryan Lavasser, our transition coordinator, was there as well, have expressed interest in finding ways to connect with either students or classes or the school in general. So that's, again, great opportunities for us from both the business association's perspective and our perspective. The more that we can help students see the range of opportunities that exist in employment in New Hampshire, the more likely it is that those students will return to be part of the workforce in New Hampshire in the future. And again, hopefully the more aware aware our students are of the many career possibilities that exist for them. I spoke with a woman who's a jeweler, a gentleman who runs a software business, a young woman who's an HR consultant. Again, just a few brief conversations, but there are a lot of great folks out there who are looking to work with our schools, so that's exciting. I also met last week with representatives from, well, our town library director and our new assistant recreation director, Carrie and Anna, just to talk about how schools, library, recreation can collaborate and complement one another's work. We're certainly not in competition. It's very clear the schools aren't actually bringing any revenue to the table on that front, but certainly the more we can work together and support each other and try to overlap programs, the better it is for kids and families. And one of the things that we're looking at initially is a book group. So I worked with some of our middle school teachers to put forward some title suggestions. We may host a session at the school. There might be one at the recreation department that has an activity attached, and maybe one at the library with a craft or a film. So that will be fun. And then one of the other areas we talked about was some collaboration for some parent workshops. So again, maybe some of those housed at the recreation department, maybe some housed or offered at the school department, some at the library, but again, just working together to expand the menu and expand the reach of those. And then I will stop there.
Perfect. Now we'll move on to the school board committee reports, and I will make a report myself first. I went this morning to the professional development committee meeting, and it was interesting to sit in. It was the first one that I was able to go to, made aware of the meeting time, and I learned a great deal about what goes into professional development days in our district, and they are very rich. The one that's occurring next Friday, October 27th, the elementary school staff will be in conferences, but there's a wealth of information going on, in terms of competence-based grading and all those things that we're looking into at the junior, senior high school, and mentoring, and it was nice to see the team with Assistant Superintendent Andriski, Principal Mazzoni, one of the staff members, and myself really talking about unifying goals and having that school board perspective there. So I appreciated the opportunity to be invited, and I look forward to the next meeting and learning more. Any other committee reports from anyone?
Facilities Committee met last night. We had a good meeting, just us, not the architects or Ekman. Big picture, we're still in the design development phase. I call it the boring phase. It's where you're gathering a lot of data, geotechnical data. We've had hazmat studies done, pipe scoping, filming of pipes, all that good stuff. But it's very necessary. It's foundational, and where we are in the process, if anybody's watching last night, we have about 3 spec books that are being developed, which will ultimately serve as sort of the direction for the project and what we give to bidders to bid on things come winter. They're about yay thick, and they have everything from where light sockets go to how you handle transitions during during phasing. It's basically everything to do with the project, and an equivalent amount of drawings, about an inch thick of hundreds of drawings as well. So what's happening is Ekman, the estimator, and Banwell, the architect, are going back and forth. Banwell saying, okay, we're going to do this. Ekman says, okay, here's the price for it. Are we still within budget? On November 1st, I think, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to do a deeper dive as a board into where they're at right now. So far, no huge hiccups, that's good news. We went over the furniture, fixture, and equipment budget, FFE, last night as well. Nothing out of whack there either. Pretty much on target. But if anybody's interested, all that stuff is on Channel 13. And if you're interested in sort of catching up, I'd probably say November 1st. Get your sleep the night before. We start at 5, and it's tedious, but you might find it somewhat interesting. You'll kind of see things taking shape a little bit more. If you want to either come that night, you're welcome to, or watch it on TV. Relatedly, I forget the name of the committee, Meredith. The efficiency or the
Yes. Performance Contracting Energy Efficiency Committee.
Yeah, I think we're having our first meeting November 1st to consider a request for proposals. And what that is that it's a town-wide thing between the schools and the town to look at efficiencies. Can we buy equipment together more cheaply, boilers, whatnot? And can we purchase them in such a way that we may be able to pay out over time versus financing them fully up front? And maybe using resources, funds for other things that might benefit projects. So that's really in its early phase, but it's exciting. It's a potential, I guess, money saver for the town, but also continuing in this theme of, looking beyond just the school and a silo and the town and a silo. We're working together, so that's it.
Can I just add one brief thing to that? Well, maybe two. One would be the infrastructure fund application for the security-related pieces just came out about 5 o'clock today. So I've already shared that with our facilities director. We'll be sharing it with our technology director because, again, there are maybe some opportunity to bring some funds for those security-related pieces of the work that we're doing to the district through this fund. There is a match requirement. There aren't a lot of specifics attached to the application at this point, but we hope to gain some more information, and we'll be sure to submit that by the deadline so that we are in line to access those funds.
And just a big picture, the budget number is
38,943.
so
39.
39, just in large perspective, the budget's 39 million. We went through with the warrant article with estimates from construction companies and architectural firms as to what this thing would cost. By the end of March, those numbers are going to be final. We'll have bids. We can't go over 39. That's not an option. But if we have money left over, the school board will have an opportunity to look at optional spending. If the budget itself is over, then we're going to have to look at potentially reducing some things within the project. The good news so far is a couple of the big things like geotech, which could have been huge, what's under the ground, and what was the other one that was? Things like hazardous asbestos.
Hazmat, yeah.
We so far things are really looking good. But at the end of March, we'll really be able to look at comprehensively what's going to be in the building and what it's going to cost. So that's the time that you really want to perhaps pay attention. That's kind of conclusion time.
And Meredith, I know we talked at the last meeting about having another joint school board facilities. I know November is chock full of meetings for us, but I think that's something we need to think about getting on the calendar too.
Yes. Just also want to remind the public that we have our next meeting with the neighborhoods that surround the schools with our abutters on November 8th, Wednesday, November 8th at, my calendar says 6 p.m. I'll need to confirm whether that's 6 or 6:30, but those letters have gone out and we'll have reminders going out week after next.
I didn't mention, it's because we're working with it all the time, but we're on schedule, so that's important to note as well. There hasn't been any hiccups in terms of setbacks or,
Right.
Finding cemeteries where they shouldn't be, anything like that.
And we're looking at scheduling with the planning board for November as well.
Yep.
Any other committee reports from anyone?
Just mentioned SST.
Yes.
Ingrid wasn't able to be there this week,
Right.
but we reviewed the updated budget for this fiscal year, and at the next meeting, we'll be approving the FY19 budget.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to discussion items. The first thing under discussion is the swim team. Mr. Hayes, would you like to come up and present on that?
You will, and then I think Ms. Benson may also
Ms. Benson, would you like to too?
choose to comment. You don't have to. It'll be an option.
Meredith did it. Thank you. And Mr. Hayes, you are the athletic director at the junior senior high school, correct?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for coming this evening.
start, or?
I think you can go ahead.
Okay. So what you have in front of you is kind of the, what I've been working on the last couple of weeks. Ms. Benson had approached us this summer about potentially starting a swim team, and obviously not having a pool, that would require working with another school. I've contacted 3 local schools. 2 of them it wasn't going to work with. Oyster River was a school that got back to us. In working with, I've found out that swim is very different from a lot of other sports, and most athletic directors knew about as much as I do, even though they already have a swim team. So it's a sport that's really run by the coaches, and so there's a lot of deferring and waiting for the coach to get back, because Oyster River also has a new athletic director this year. So that's just getting information tonight before I came here. So so I sent out a survey to all the families in grades 6 through 10 in our school to kind of gauge what is the interest, what's the short-term interest, what's the long-term interest. And I had 46 responses. And so of people that either wanted more information or were at the point where they're definitely interested. So to those 46, I sent out another one because I had heard back from Oyster River with here's kind of how we can do it. So the information that I sent out is a winter sport. I don't know if some people knew, because I knew there were some people that already play a winter sport for us that had said they were interested, so I'm not sure if they knew of what season it was going to be in. The meets are all on the weekends. They're about 8 to 10 throughout the season. And practices are 4 days a week, and some are before school, 5 to 6 at the UNH pool, and some are 9 to 10 at the UNH pool. We kind of have to work around their schedule with their school team, and they take the time when they can get in there. Transportation to all the meets and practices would be a responsibility of the family, so they would have to get them there in the morning and back at night and all that. And there could be a user fee associated, like with some of our football, hockey, golf, some of our other sports that we have. So that was where I got 17 responses of the 46 that I had sent out that were, possibly still interested or definitely interested. 4 of them were in high school, grades 9 and 10 for this current year, and then of the definitely interested, and then 10 of them were still in the middle school. So, so the way it would work with Oyster River is we would piggyback their schedule for training and for their meets. So whenever they trained, whenever they went to a meet, we would go with them. And we would swim as Newmarket because it's not a cooperative situation, because it's an individual sport. So whatever their schedule dictated is when we would go. Their coach would be the coach of all the swimmers, and we would have a contact person, whether it be a team parent or someone that would be the communicator between the coach and our swimmers and families. They said that they could accommodate up to 12 swimmers from Newmarket. So, for a couple years, we would definitely be in that range, and we could make it work. All the meets are at the UNH pool, so we wouldn't have to worry about traveling, busing any, to Dartmouth or, wherever they have pools or anything like that. So, again, that would be the family's responsibility to get him there, just like it is for hockey and football and those things. The cost would be, and this is information I just got coming here. Traditionally, when we start a new program, we have gone club for the first 2 years to see if it's going to work, to see if the schedules are going to work and the commitment and all that stuff. So the NHIA fees for the first year are 0 if you're a club level. They waive their fees, so you can just come in and try it out, and if it doesn't work, there's not a lot of money tied up.
What does club level mean?
Club level is we would not be eligible to compete for state championships. It's almost like a JV schedule. So we would still be able to go to all the meets and everything like that. We would just not be a varsity program. So at the end of the year, we would not go to the state championships. So And then year 2, it would be 2/3 of the cost to be a varsity program, which is $200 a year. And then year 3, if we went to varsity, it would be $300. As far as user fees, we got good news on that. They do not charge user fees. Oyster River doesn't. And they use their home meets as a fundraiser to pay for pool time, which is very expensive. So they must be very big meets. And so the families would be obligated to help at the meets in one way or another, and help to run those meets to help either raise money through concession stands or timing or scoring or whatever it would be, which is, I think that people that are involved in swimming are used to that anyway, and being, parents helping out and helping meets run and everything. So I don't think that that's going to be a big change. Long-term question would be, what happens if we get more than 12 and Oyster River can't take us anymore? And we grow the program, and then we get to a point where we wouldn't have a place for our swimmers.
Jamie, if we decided to proceed with this, when would the swimmers begin to start swimming? Like how
We could
soon?
start swimming this year as a club. So, and the season would start in November.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'll just add, that's why we brought
Yeah.
this to you as a discussion item tonight, because we would look to make a decision at the first November meeting in order to get
And that
things
would,
in place
that would allow them to
for the start
participate.
of the season.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So then at that point, we would just have to get paperwork, just like any other sport, we'd have to get paperwork and physicals and all that done. And Oyster River, they seem very accommodating, that they would be willing to, and we're looking at 4 or 5 swimmers this year, at the high school level. And the reason we only put it out to grades 6 through 10, I'm sorry, is that, so if we're a club for 2 years, if we put it out to juniors and seniors, that they wouldn't actually get to participate at the varsity level. So we were really looking at what's going to happen if we get to the varsity level. What are we going to have there?
They would, though, be eligible,
Yep.
should this move forward, to participate at the club level over the next 2 years.
Right, so if we did have
If they
juniors and
chose to.
seniors,
Correct.
yeah, they would still be able to participate, but they would just have to know that they would, not be participating at the varsity level.
I know we have a couple of relationships, similar yet different, with Epping for football and Portsmouth for hockey, for example.
Mhm.
Can you give me an example of how successful those relationships are? Or-
They've been very successful. They are different because they are team sports, so they're cooperative teams.
Right.
So, so there aren't restrictions on numbers or anything like that, because, they would have JV teams, they would have varsity teams. So, that would be the one difference. We would be responsible for our own swimmers, as far as they would be Newmarket swimmers.
Okay.
So, I would be the administrator of those teams. For
And
the other
I'm-
teams, they're cooperative, and the host school is the administrator as far as the NHIA.
Like, let's say we have 14 kids that want to apply for these 12 spots that we
Yep.
have. Would you or would we determine who those 12 swimmers are? How is that determined?
That's a good question. That's something that I think we'd probably have to talk to. And I think this is probably all contingent on what Oyster River has for numbers as well.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is they also already have Co-Brown that piggybacks their schedule.
Okay.
So if their numbers grow, right now they're saying they could take 12 swimmers.
Okay.
So if they get to, all of a sudden they have a big bubble and they only have room for 6 or 8 or something like that, I don't know. Or if they have a dip and we could take more, so.
I know that, from just the contracts that we see going forward, the Epping contract is renewed on an annual basis. I'm assuming this would be a similar situation.
Yeah, it's actually, we don't have to have a per se a contract because it's not a cooperative team.
So this is the whole
So-
unique ball of wax.
Right, it's very, like I said, unique. Finding out swimming is very unique to
As
other
am I.
sports. So
But-
as far as the administration of it.
Okay.
So,
But to your point, I think the decision from Oyster River of how many athletes they
Right.
could accommodate would be an annual decision.
Yeah.
Right now, that number 12 is probably a pretty good guesstimate and it's probably good for, another couple of
Yeah,
years. But
yep.
it's hard to forecast long-term,
Okay.
and they're not obligated to
Right.
allow our swimmers. They have to prioritize, obviously, the students in their district.
right.
And so if we approach those limits, that's sort of in the nature of a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep.
We're
Yeah.
growing. and,
Nicole, you can come up if you'd like.
And, the other thing is it's early on. I mean, maybe over the years, other schools would entertain it as well.
Sure,
you know.
sure. You know, and I remember when we started football, you know, we had the sign up in the office and 44 players or 44 students signed up for football, and when it came down to it, 9 of them actually came out and participated.
Once the double
You know,
season started.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Two-a-days
And,
are rough.
Once, you know,
Yeah.
they figured out what it really entailed and stuff like that, so.
Well, and then parents have to get them there. I mean,
Right.
it's a huge
Yep,
commitment.
yep.
But obviously you have,
Right.
parents are committed.
And I think, you know, carpooling and, you know, like any other, you know, people go to Seacoast United and if they're swimming already, they're used to going to all the area pools and making it work.
Just
and-
like
and-
hockey.
Exactly, exactly. You know, and I have to think that, you know, if we were gonna send 13 people over, Oyster wouldn't say, well, you gotta figure out which one of them can't do it.
Right.
Right.
You know, so I think they're saying, you know, we can take about 12.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I think, you know, we'd maybe get into a problem if we got to 16, 18. You know, that's where it would be a problem. You know, the Oyster River coach seems very, very nice, and I know you know him very well, so, he's been great communicating with me and everything, so, you know, I think it's something that definitely would be a great opportunity for our students, you know, and give them, I know a lot of them are already swimming competitively and doing very well, but it would be nice to do that with Newmarket, you know.
It's just another, it's another
Yeah.
thing for our school. Or
Right,
our
you know,
education.
and really the economics of it is
There aren't any.
nothing. You know, they would buy their own suits and all that, so, you know, I just think it's a, you know, very easy way for us to get more students involved in, you know, what
I
we
agree.
do.
Jamie, what sticks out to me, looking at this thing, is this is gonna mean 2 days a week, these kids are gonna be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make,
Maybe,
pardon?
maybe, right? It depends. It could either be 9 to 10 or 4 to 5.
Well, right now, the schedule is they train two days in the morning and 2 days at night.
Right.
So it's not or, so they train 4 days a week, and 2 of them are in the morning
Right.
and 2 of them at the
And they're
nights.
gonna be getting home at 11 o'clock.
Right.
But I think, and I have limited knowledge of competitive swimming just from a girl that I used to babysit. But I think when people get to, when people get to that level of swimming, they understand that just like the hockey, you understand that those are the guidelines, and the families decide whether they can play or
I
not.
totally get it. I mean,
It's a lot.
And I guess the only reason I brought it up is that an unusual time for swim practices?
Not really, because I mean, you know, there are multiple people trying to get into, there's only so many pools around.
Yeah.
You know, so they're used to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
just like ice, sheets of ice.
Same.
Yep.
You know, and I don't think it's much different from a young student that plays Seacoast United and they have a 9:30 game on a Wednesday night in
Okay.
Hampton. You know, and then the families know it going in. You know, so it's 2 mornings, and then so they're done when school day ends. They're done. They can go get their homework done. They can go to bed early that night. You know, the late nights they have to manage. They just have to manage their time.
I'm glad I don't have any kids.
Right. That's when you work out the carpool and you don't do the mornings, right?
Ms. Benson, did you have something you wanted to
Sure,
say?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not only a swimming team, it's a diving team also. So swimming in NHIAA for high school across the country, swimming and diving are together. So at the same time, everything you're presenting also includes divers. So those gymnasts out there, because gymnastics is really not a big high school sport, all those gymnasts out there who want to learn how to go on their head, dive on their head, fine. Like it's a place, it exposes them to another sport. So that's another aspect too, which then, but the double-edged sword is that it takes up lane space. So they're diving at the same time as they're swimming. The other thing about pools, yes, there are pools that, when it kind of practices from 9 to 10 at night at PEA. Exeter High School, 9 to 10 o'clock at night. It's because, you know, PEA gets their time, UNH gets their time, the club team gets their time. Like we're all muscling, all club teams, it's every pool. The one silver lining in all this is that Exeter YMCA is pushing to build a pool. They're fundraising right now to build a pool, which would add another pool online, hopefully in a few years. So if we do, you know, there's another option if for some reason we explode. we're also a small district. We're not as big as, Exeter High School is huge, and they have like 30, 40 kids on their team, and those are big bodies and lanes. And if you've ever been to a swim meet, the taller the kid and the more the bodies, the lane, it's a mess. So, but that's just another option in the future to kind of, just think out there. That's where we can also be like, hey, and maybe get better pool time, and maybe, even if we don't take their whole pool, we take 4 lanes, and then another club team or another high school takes the other 4. There are many ways to work this situation out. And I've seen lots of creative ways to doing it. So just there's that too. And I don't know, I'm just excited that this conversation's happening. I appreciate all the work you've done. Thank you. And that
Nicole, thank
we're
you
getting-
for
well,
starting this idea
Well-
and bringing it out and bringing all these people to our meeting tonight. We appreciate each and every one.
Yeah.
So thank you for having the idea and working with Jamie to present
Yeah,
it.
and
We
you don't
appreciate
have to
it.
be a swimmer already on a swim team to join high school swimming, and that's the whole point of high school swimming, is it exposes somebody to a new sport. So if a student finds themselves like basketball, or I'm not a runner, it's a great sport. It's a lifelong sport. It's one of those sports you can do, and if you we have so many lakes and oceans. Like, I'm a big advocate of water safety and making sure that people are comfortable in the water. And even if it's not their thing in high school, it might become their thing as a triathlete or as something later on. And having that exposure in high school where it's reasonably priced, because not everybody can do club team, is such a great value above and beyond. And having this piggyback situation is really just a great option, I think, for our community. So,
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mr. Hayes?
I think, just to piggyback on what she was saying, one person from the survey came back and said, my child may want to do it for conditioning purposes in the winter. And I mean, you can't get outside and run, and, it may be an athlete that doesn't want to run indoor track and isn't a basketball player, but, wants to stay in shape for a fall or spring sport. And like you said, it doesn't take experience. The coach will teach them how to do it. So it's as we know, it's a great conditioning sport. So.
Aren't there 2 other pools in Portsmouth? Is there a wide pool?
There's a wide pool,
And then
the municipal pool, right by the Portsmouth High School.
in either of those options?
Yeah, so to your question, there's 2 pools in Portsmouth that are indoor. There's another one that's outdoor. Obviously, we can't use that in the winter. The municipal pool, which is right by the high school, that is pretty scheduled out. That's you can try and vie for it, but there's the master swim team swims there, along with there's a club team, Portsmouth swim team, Cannibal swim team swims there, and so does the high school team. So, but that is an option to look at. You never know. There's also the Y pool, and I don't know if that one's as scheduled out. Like, you can always try that Y pool out there too, even if it's just for a couple lanes. You got 12 kids who are interested. That could be 2 to 3 lanes. That's reasonable amount for kids who are working. You get your kids who are a little more experienced, kind of send them. We say we just send them out. We let them swim a while, and then we work with the kids who need the technique and need the help. So that is a possibility too, but that's through the Y. That's not necessarily piggybacking. Then you're paying for lane, and you pay per lane. You rent out those lanes, and that's a contract, more of a contract
distance,
situation.
too.
Yep, and distance. You have to get there 33, blah, blah, blah. So you have to think about that. And there's one indoor pool in Dover that's pretty scheduled out. Berwick Academy uses that for their swim team, along with the high school and St. Thomas Aquinas, and then the Seacoast Swimming, which is the club team. But they do have an outdoor pool, but that's obviously for summertime only. So, but another thing, Dover's last year, 2 years ago, did approve building an indoor aquatic center, which would be a 50-meter pool, which would be twice the size of a regular pool that you see around here. So that's another thing that it depends when it gets built. It takes a lot of money. So we'll see when they have, but that was approved. So that's also down the line too, and just, have your feelers out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it'd be nice to have options down the road, but this situation where it's free, it's, and everything like that, I don't think it can get better than this. I was very shocked when they said there wasn't going to be a user fee. That's tremendous. So I just think it's a great opportunity for our students.
Any other questions? Yes.
You have one question.
Yes.
Sorry. The club situation versus varsity situation, is that a school board kind of policy that we're a club for 2 years and then it becomes varsity, or is that an NHIAA?
Do you want to address that? I mean, Jamie, really, when we talked about it, that really has been the practice in Newmarket of how teams have been established. I don't think it's neither policy nor NHIAA requirement,
Okay.
but it has been how the district has phased programs in order to allow time to budget, time to ascertain growth of a program.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, that couldn't change, but again.
It would seem like with team sports, that would make sense, because you don't know what you're gonna have. You wouldn't wanna send out a bad product, I mean, a totally bad, like a really
Yeah.
disorganized, team. But whereas this is more of an individual sport.
And minimal, it seems like minimal investment is for, like, we're not building a pool. Like, if we were building a pool, I could be like, yeah.
Well,
I'm
in
gonna
other
make
words,
sure,
for a
but-
varsity level, it won't be any different cost, right, than for,
It would be $300.
It'd be
right?
$300, yeah.
well, substantially different cost than.
Yeah,
than-
no, not substantially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's for the school and not per swimmer. is
Yeah, we
that-
would register, the cost is $150 per sport. So boys swimming and girls, it's not co-ed, so there's a boys team and then there's a girls team. So it'd be $300 total.
Oh, I
That-
thought it was per swimmer.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So per team.
Oh.
You register as a team, it's an individual sport, but there are team scoring, so, it's kinda like cross-country. You run as an individual, but there is team scoring and such, so, yeah.
Nicole, if I may ask, and you have quite a swimming background as well, so what are your thoughts on that? The club for a couple of years versus jumping right into varsity, knowing how it works?
Well, when I first thought about the club, and if there was a big investment, like if we were building a pool, or if there was a lot of equipment we had to buy that would have to be handed down, I get that. Like, I get that. Let's make sure we're sustainable. But given the data now, this is new to me too, that there really is, is $300 kind of a drop in the bucket in a $1 million, couple $1 million budget. I think that, gosh, not. But I also don't want to break precedent. I want to be sensitive to the other teams that were coming up and who had to sit through 2 years of club, and I understand that. And I think that I want to be fair to them, but then I also look at our unique situation where it's so different, you said.
Right.
There's less hoops to, it's really kind of like, oh, shoot. I would hate to, I want to be able to give the best for the kids, but then also be sensitive to what has come through the past and not ignore that either. So that's your
Can't
job.
we just approach it in a year? Let's see how the year goes and approach it differently maybe next year, see.
I'm of the mind, first of all, I don't know any reason why we couldn't vote on this tonight unless we need more discussion.
Well, we had it on the agenda as a discussion item to allow the board time to
Sure. We
ask
don't
any
have- we
questions
don't
and
have
then
But it's coming up, and, the more time I would think the better.
Can we make the decision to?
But the second thing is that, in terms of whether to jump into varsity versus as a club sport, I that's probably beyond our purview. I think if we would approve, if we were to vote on it, we would allow that and leave it to Jamie and others to decide what's best on that level. If you wanna do it, if swim's somehow different, and there's a reason to jump right into varsity or no reason not to, but that seems to be sort of a decision to be made.
I don't know the
That level.
procedural requirement, but I think it's pretty obvious that
I guess the only
the board
question.
thinks it's a great idea.
The only question I have, if we look at because I think the question now becomes, and I don't, tell me if I'm speaking out of turn, varsity versus club for the first year. That's what I'm hearing from you guys at this point. And I guess my only concern with it is, one, as Nicole said, the precedent that we had before. And two, yes, swimming is an individual sport and a unique sport, but are we setting a new precedent for something else that's coming down the road? And does that bear any thought or any weight?
I think it's again, it all depends on the reason for the rule, and if the reason for the rule is really based on team sports, because is that, we've only done team sports so far.
Yeah, in my experience, the auditions that I've been here for have been team sports. You know, the individual sports we had were golf, cross country. I mean, they.
With hockey, did we wait a year before that?
No, because it was already an established team, so
Okay.
we were going into their team, and we were just joining their established team in a cooperative situation. So I get, and just, the only difference between club and varsity would be the option to go to state meet. And that's a qualifying standard, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if the people that we have would qualify.
Right.
You know, so we'd be paying the money for them if we have, I mean, I think we have all different levels. And, you know, so it would be, if we had someone that qualified, you know, they would not be able to go. If we don't have anybody that qualified, then we wouldn't need to spend the money anyway. So, and then the other thing is, like you said, past precedent in future.
And future, yeah. I mean, Jamie and I have discussed, there are some other sports on our horizon to include
Yeah.
lacrosse and
Yeah.
things that have already begun to be raised within the community.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, we just want to be mindful of that piece of things. And again, I don't have the history certainly beyond, you know, what we've discussed and shared with you, but that's the piece. And as the, you know, group in charge of policy, that's a decision we certainly would want you to weigh in on.
Because if we decide we're gonna go varsity this year, that would open it up to more juniors and seniors that may want to, you know, would have an option to be a varsity sport and qualify. And I don't know what that would do to the numbers, if it would change them at all. But then again, you know, like we said, you know, with other sports being on the horizon and of juniors and seniors come to us and they say, well, you know, you did it for one sport, we're a junior or senior, I wanna play varsity this year. And maybe it's different because it's a team sport compared to an individual.
Community member Mickey Burns and budget committee member Mickey would like to make a statement, and I would like to allow him to do that if it's okay with you guys. Mickey, come on up.
Thanks, Chairperson Shelton. My name is Mickey Burns. I live at 145 Ash Swamp. You know, live here in Newmarket. We have two of our boys swim for the Oyster River, and just a general comment about the difference between swimming and swimming club and swimming varsity. I think we all recognize that swimmers and swimming is a unique, you know, experience. Swimmers are a little weird, just in general, and it comes down to the fact that you'll get up at 5 in the morning to swim in December, you know, January, February, or stay up until 10 o'clock at night for the you practice for 2 hours 4 times a week, and your race is hopefully less than 30 seconds, so that you can make it to the state meet, right? And they measure swimmers' times to the 100th of a second. And if you're talking about distance in a pool, you're talking the length of your fingertip between making it to states and not making it to states. It is that cut and dry. That's how you know, individual swimming really can get. And I think when you think about the difference between a club team and a varsity team, at some level you still come out of the pool wet, right? You still have done the best you can. You still have tried your hardest. But the difference is, starting off, that you get to say that you are a member of a varsity high school team, and you can list that on your college applications, which in my case definitely helped me, you know, get into a school that allowed me to have the life I have now, which I'm very happy takes place here in Newmarket. You know, and I think that if you think to the effort involved in a family getting kids to a pool at the morning or the afternoon and night, the thought that somebody might try their hardest and somebody might make states,
Right.
and then to have to tell that person, well, no, way back when in a meeting you may not have been a part of, we decided that we didn't want that to happen. You know, I think the effort will still be there. People will still come out for the team and work, but I think we should consider as members of a community whether or not we're sort of all in on this idea or part way in on this idea. Because the student athletes that are going to do it, they're going to be all in on that race, on that day, trying to make the state meet, which is the highest sort of qualifier they can get to. So thank you for, you know, everybody who has worked really hard to get us to this point. Having this flyer in front of folks and in front of the community is amazing. So just a thought on what we do. Again, it's not going to change the effort kids put in, but it will change sort of the ability for them to promote and market what they have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey.
Thanks for that clarification
yeah.
about varsity. That was helpful.
I believe that we can proceed to the vote if we so choose, correct? Are we prepared to do that?
Certainly amend your agenda.
We're amending the agenda to add this to an action item to vote on, and my question, I seek a motion to approve adding a swimming team to the Newmarket School District.
Is varsity or,
Swimming and diving, thank you, Nicole.
is varsity or club?
I would ask for the motion to dictate.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, adding swimming and diving.
It's important.
As a varsity program.
Second.
On a motion from Mr. Zink and a second from Mr. Kennison, is there any discussion of this motion?
I'm excited. This is exciting
too.
for our
Let's
kids.
vote, we gotta vote.
You may,
No, and the point about precedent is very well taken. That's my whole career, is keeping things the same, right? You know, to following what happened
Yeah.
before. But this is, I think, a unique situation for the reasons Mickey and Nicole described, because it's an individual sport, and I think we take them one at a time. You know, if the lacrosse team comes, I think we'd have equal encouragement, but it might have different factors.
it's a different, yeah.
Yeah, it's tougher to herd a bunch of cats than, you know, these individual athletes that, you know, we may have stars among us right now, that could make states, right?
And I would assume that the future school boards will go through the due diligence that we've gone through and the team has gone through to get us to this point to make that determination at that time.
Right.
All those in favor of approving Mr. Zink's motion to approve adding a swimming and diving varsity team to the Newmarket School District, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. See, this is why I love what we do. It's exciting.
We do have to do that every week.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone that came. Swim hard. I probably drown. All right. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. All right. Last week, at last meeting 2 weeks ago, Mr. Zink discussed the option of adding technology to the school board for an alternative way to disseminate information. We asked for Jason Carey, the technology person, I couldn't think of a better word, in the district, to present us with some options, and he is here to do that. So Jason, if you will proceed, welcome. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Wait till everyone gets this handout. A little ironic, I'm handing out paper at a... But
It's not on the board.
maybe for the last time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
My tech.
Yeah. Jason, this
Oh,
is what we're
yes,
talking about.
no, I would drop it by the end of it.
All right, so real brief, I put together 5, I guess, are the most common devices out there that folks would purchase to go ahead and get paperless or move towards paperless. So we can run through them. You can take a look at them and ask some questions, or
Perfect.
however you want to do it.
Are they in, and you can run, why don't you run through them, Jason, then I'll ask questions.
Sure. All right. The first two are almost the same. The biggest difference is the size.
Yeah.
And it's the Chromebook. There's 11-inch and 14-inch, and you'll see maybe 500 of these devices. Actually, a little more than 500 in our schools right now. So student devices, staff devices. So they're quite popular. And some of the reasons why is first and foremost, the cost. They're inexpensive for what you could get and what you can do with them. They're mobile. They're highly durable. Most of these are made to take the abuse of just about anyone. Rubberized edges, spill-proof keyboards. Battery life is somewhere upwards around 9 hours, so it's substantial. And the setup.
We won't
from-
have any meetings that long, just to be clear.
just in case. Or if you forget to charge the device, right? You're gonna make it through your
That's
meeting.
even a better question. Do you have any that are like an hour and a half?
We could work something out. And one of our favorite
Without
pieces
sabotage.
from my department standpoint is the setup. These things we can have them unboxed and set up within a few minutes per device. So they're quick and easy and inexpensive. Some of the downsides, especially with the 11-inch, is the small screen. You are limited to Chrome apps, so you can't get your Microsoft Office on there, Excel, which some folks are used to. But just about, or anything that is web-based, any website you go to and interact with, and web apps you can get to. So there's still plenty you can do with it. To add the touchscreen function, you're looking at another $100. So that increases the price a little bit. And one other negative is the ability to work offline. So there are some apps that allow you that ability where your data is going to sync down to the device, but there's many that don't. So you do need a connection, but where have you gone that you don't have an internet connection nowadays? So the next one down is a 14-inch Chromebook, identical, just a little 3 inches bigger, diagonal on the screen size. Same option with the touch screen. Then you have the iPad, which I'm assuming everyone's probably had their hands on at some point.
Can I just clarify one thing, Jason?
Sure.
Pricing for the 11-inch and 14-inch are the same?
They are identical.
Just pointing that out.
Yeah, so
With
those
my
are
glasses
different,
on, I'm just pointing that out.
different manufacturers, but the 14 would work just fine. But yeah, price point is the same. Again, the iPad mobility, obviously battery life's pretty impressive with the iPad. Touchscreen functionality, and again, this is another device that we can set up pretty quickly. Negatives: no keyboard. To add a keyboard in case you're looking at an extra $100. Price point's a little higher, $350 without the keyboard. So all in, you'd be looking around $450. If you're going to type on it, if you're browsing through a board packet, it may be the device for you. But if you want to type away an email or produce some work, you're not going to have fun typing on the on-screen keyboard. Next up are 2 Windows-based devices. We have the laptop, which comes in around $700. A lot of the same features, and some of the negatives, though, are the cost. Obviously, almost triple the cost. The weight, battery life. Most computers now have fans that still spin to keep them cool. And setup time takes a lot longer. Whereas a Chromebook we can unbox and get going in 5-10 minutes. That Windows machine is going to take image licensing. It could probably take I'd say at least an hour and a half per device. And last but not least, I threw this in here. We actually use this in our POS systems. The Linda Hopi, actually both ladies in the kitchens can use these devices, and it's basically a Windows laptop that folds out into a tablet. And again, mobility, touchscreen, and the fact that it can turn into a tablet. Con is the price. These things start at $1,000 and go up to $2,000. For the right situation, they're a great product, but they're also delicate. We've had a few repairs already.
Oh, dear.
And setup time, again, installing the Windows operating system and all of our software, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, those are probably the top 5 options I recommend. And
I just got one for at my job. They are now giving them to us, and I mean, for me, it's easy to move. It's easy. It's light. I throw it in my bag.
Which one's that?
Which one did you get?
The 14-inch Chromebook.
Oh, okay.
And the freshman class just all received one in our school.
And I think, we've been talking meeting after meeting, year after year about one-to-one and getting there. And I definitely think that we need to consider this for obvious reasons, because Al had a valid point when he brought it up. But I think we also need to make sure that we are getting the laptops and Chromebooks in the hands of the students as quickly as we can too.
Agreed.
No,
I've been using this one for years, and I did adjust my typing on it, and it's not like typing on my keyboard, but I can type on this thing.
what is that?
This is an iPad.
I've got the same
And
one.
it's not the largest one they make. It was,
Yeah, they do have the
It's
Pro,
6
which
years
is, I think, close to
Yeah.
12.5
This one's
inches,
6 years old.
maybe bigger.
But a little pricier.
Yeah, you're talking, I don't know, but they're probably double the cost of a regular
Yeah,
iPad.
I'd say it's 700 to 800, I think.
I
Yeah.
think this discussion's probably at a good time, because when we start as a board really sort of sifting through the facility stuff, I mean, we'd be talking a lot of paper, and, you know, and just.
So the big thing for me is just budget season, but you can take notes.
That too, yeah.
You know, I'm constantly writing all over these things. I don't save as much as I used to for the first 3 years. I think just being able to keep notes, we all do that now. Saving paper, time,
Do Chromebooks have a little keyboard?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, imagine a laptop with Chrome operating system
Okay.
as opposed to Windows or Mac OS.
And I know, you know, that we're using Google and Gmail and all that on whatever system we have now within school, and we can use that on the Chromebook as well.
Yep. Yeah, we're finally starting to see a lot of buy-in from staff and students with Google Classroom, all the Google apps. It's finally part of the culture now. So.
Yeah, that's how most of my schooling works. I just submit everything through Google Classroom. I use Google Docs for everything now. I don't use Microsoft Word because I can access it anywhere from any computer, any login information. So.
Yeah, it's another key. Your data is going to be in the cloud waiting for you wherever you go, whichever device you log into.
My question, I guess, would be, is there some, limited to Chrome apps, are some of the things that we have, things that are other than Chrome apps that we need to have access to, any of our Excel files? Do we have to look at any
You
spreadsheets
can
or things?
open them in Chrome from your email. So if you're sent a Word file or an Excel file, you can certainly open them in Chrome. In some cases, the formatting might be slightly different, but
It
not
all
frequently.
depends, but you could view it. So there's nothing. You'll never click on something and you're going to see a black screen.
Okay, no, I was just wondering, as long as we can do it, use it the way we need to use those, whatever the documents, or if we
Yeah, you'd
can't
probably
get at
be-
them.
Yeah, you'll probably be looking at viewing a PDF of the
Yeah.
board
Right.
agenda.
The board comes,
Which is typically how you receive the budget anyway. We
Right.
typically send it to you as a PDF
PDF,
file
right.
rather than the Excel file for obvious
Right.
reasons.
Okay.
And that's true of our policies. Those, again, you'll be able to open them either through Google Docs or through, to view them as a PDF. And again, I mean, most of our agenda items can easily be produced and either scanned in as a PDF. And I think Jason, I liked his little note at the bottom, right? It's 2.5 cents per
Yeah.
black and white print.
I wanted to
and-
show you
printed quite a
the
bit.
Yeah.
lately.
mind-blowing return on investment. It's not really there. I had Penny give me some numbers. I said, how big are the packets? How often are they meeting? How many board members in it? It was $120 a year, on a 30-page packet. But, that trickles down and lead by example. And
Well, and also, to Mike's point, we were at a facilities meeting last night where there were
spec
stacks.
books.
sure.
So many stacks, so many pages that we didn't make copies for people to look at them. So I think if you look at that endeavor, that might warrant.
Yeah.
it.
The
And I
printing,
think,
the
Al,
printing
your
adds
thing
up
came
quick.
from all this policy. We had that huge,
Yep, oh, yeah.
that was what,
Yeah.
50 pages? More?
Wait,
100?
We have the option.
96.
Someone counted.
And I'm not sure my question is relevant, but I can't get off my bicycle when it comes to town and school. What is the town using?
For
The town
For the
has gone-
council?
They've gone
Uh,
wired, they've gone completely.
I don't know what they're using. I know they have a mix just like us, but I'm not sure what the.
You mean for the town council itself?
Yeah.
I
They went-
believe they went with iPads, but I don't know that
I think you're right. 'Cause
with
we
100%
did that,
certainty.
Like, I had one, so it had to have been at least 3 years ago.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting there and scrolling through a board packet, the iPad may be a elegant solution. If you're interacting with it and you want to take some notes, then you may want a keyboard, but that's something we could include.
I think they do have I think Howard did it.
The good news is we have all of these devices we have loaners in our office where we loan out to staff members. So if you want to try any of these,
Why don't we
shoot us a note and.
Why don't we, for those of you who maybe haven't used a Chromebook before, or an iPad in some cases, maybe you can get with Jason between now and the next meeting to sort of see what feels good to you. And then we can make a decision.
I was gonna bring one
Possibly
for everyone,
moving
but it never works out.
But we certainly could arrange a time, anytime in the next couple of weeks, either through me or if Jason's offering through him directly,
Sure.
to schedule a time to test things out.
Take it for a test drive, yeah.
And if for your schedules that align at all to do
Yeah.
that, that's great as
Yeah.
well.
And it would be a school property.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, it would be available to future boards.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the other
It's
piece.
an
All
investment.
It'll
They're
go
a
to the
4 to
next
5 year lifespan.
Yeah, yeah, depends on the device, and
Exactly.
all of these will be supported by us, which is
Now, a Chromebook
Great
would
service.
be in that 4 to 5 range potentially, as long as it's not dropped.
yeah. So we didn't really know. Usually, it's a 5-year replacement cycle.
Okay.
And even this year, I've had the ability to take a look at our stuff before having to replace it. So we have gear that's 5 years old. We're easily going to get another 2 years out of it. So we'll keep it in the classroom and keep running it. But yeah, Chromebooks, we have some that are finally in their 4th year. They'll be in their 5th year next year, and they're holding up pretty well. The devices we first bought weren't as robust. They weren't as durable as what we're buying now, which can take
And
some abuse.
My iPad is, I'd say 5 years old. It's it's leaving the earth. Like
Yeah.
when they go, they go.
Yeah.
That's,
Right, but it's operating fine, right, after 5 years?
No, it's so slow.
Oh.
It's awful.
Yeah, you'll notice the processing speed's a little slower. Another thing with iPads, at some point, they're not going to be able to update anymore. So we have a full cart that's stuck at iOS 9.
Yeah. I
2
think that's what
versions
mine is.
old, and it won't run certain apps. It's up for renewal next year, but, we have it for another 9 months. Stuck on that version.
Good marketing on their part.
Yeah, pretty
By
much,
not
right?
supporting it,
Yeah, they built a device that lasts 8 years. but-
Right.
Jason, thank you
Won't
for
work.
bringing us this data, and thank you for your consistent work and keeping us up to date and planning for technology and all the work that you've done with the building.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, moving along to action items. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was October 5th, 2017. I seek a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved?
Second?
I have a motion from Ms. McKinney and a second from Ms. Alberg to approve the public meeting minutes of October 5th. All those in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
4-0, Jen. Mike, do you have the manifests?
I move to approve the manifest dated October 19th, 2017, in the total amount of $401,792.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
On a motion from Mr. Kinnison, a second from Ms. McKinney to approve the manifest and the amounts listed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Meredith, I know there is an upcoming health insurance joint study committee.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that, and we can approve the?
Sure, so again, it's something we've talked about before. It was part of the collective bargaining agreement with the Teachers Association that we would form a joint study committee to look at health insurance, the market, the options, the big picture of what's available for health insurance. At our last meeting, I suggested that we appoint our business administrator, Lisa Ambrosio, myself, and a board member to that committee. And so that's the goal. Again, I'm hoping it's a relatively short-term committee in the sense that it'll probably be a couple of months, a handful of meetings really to help both sides get a full understanding of what the picture is for health insurance right now.
Changes again.
And I had said, if with your approval, that I would serve as a board member on that committee. So I seek a motion to approve the members appoint the health insurance study committee members, Lisa Ambrosio, Superintendent Nato, myself, and then it's members of the teachers. Do we
Yeah,
wanna-
they're appointing.
They're appointing their
their
own.
own.
So we are appointing myself, so moved.
Second.
On a motion from Ms. Alberg, second from Mrs. McKinney to appoint the Health Insurance Joint Study Committee. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of approving? Aye. We talked earlier about committee reports, and there is the evaluation committee that exists. We have one member right now. Ingrid is the assigned member to that. Based upon the collective bargaining agreement, we need to add a second school board member to that committee. And I'm wondering if we have any volunteers for that assignment.
It's usually they're early in the morning or they're right after school, so it makes it impossible for me to
Okay.
get there. Because I was on that.
Mike, if you don't mind, I will take that one as well, because you've got the
Yeah.
building
It's tough scheduling.
and tough
Yeah.
scheduling.
Yeah.
So I've proven that I can get to a 6:45 a.m. meeting.
Okay.
So I will
Might as well
continue.
join the swim team.
Well, no, that won't happen. They don't want to have a drowning middle-aged lady in the pool. So I will assign myself to that committee.
You need board approval.
I
you
seek
need-
board approval to appoint myself.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion from Mr. Kennison, a second from Ms. McKinney to appoint me to the evaluation committee along with Ingrid. All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain, since I can't vote for myself.
Okay.
All right, now we are in our policy mode again. Meredith, if you want to take us through the ones that you're suggesting that we just review, and then we can just
Yes.
go through.
So the good news is the Section 8 policies are simply review. No changes are recommended to those. Again, we're still working through some of these required policies, but we're approaching the end of that journey. So the no changes policies include our regulations for volunteers. So you went through the volunteer policy as a first read, so these are the regulations that accompany that.
Right.
Supervision of instructional staff. Again, no changes there. Describes the process that we go through in observation. Our policy IHAMC is our HIV/AIDS policy. Again, no changes on that front. It's universal precautions. It prevents us discrimination.
Right.
No changes there. And then policy IJK is supplemental materials selection and adoption. It allows the district to use movies, videos, augmentative educational materials. No changes.
Augmentative?
Well,
Is that a word?
yes.
You're just making that up.
I don't know.
I'm gonna add it.
It's too late in the evening. Impossible. I just had a conversation with
Chromebooks, we
someone
can
about,
look- we can Google.
firstly is technically grammatically correct, but I would not recommend starting an essay with that term. Augmentative communication is a term of art. It is used actually largely in special education to provide assistive communication, but augmentative communication is our alternative means of communicating.
I would make an editorial change
It's gravel word.
on the important regulations on volunteers under conduct unacceptable.
Yes.
The former English teacher in me.
Oh dear,
and he says
please.
Down here, we have all verbs ending in ing, and then we have arrested and arrested. Being arrested or being for a misdemeanor or being arrested for a felony. Is that the meaning that we want? These are all things that we would not want.
Acceptable behavior.
There's a
volunteer.
verb before.
Yeah.
Word, no, not a verb.
A helping verb.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a perfectly fine addition.
And there was some other, and
It now has
looking at it on
changes.
screen, I couldn't make the change. But there was something else I read farther on, there was a spelling error or something like that. I'll look to see if I can find it on the paper copy.
Next section.
Yes, let's go into the ones for the first reading.
Section B, first reading, is the volunteer policy itself, and again, these updates are some of it was just a little bit of cleanup, but it was largely around the background investigation piece and some of the legislative changes that occurred there. So we clarified some of the language around confidentiality. This policy was last updated in 2008. So trying to bring that up to date. Again, not substantive changes. Concussions and head injuries. Again, just very minor cleanups there. It said parent, just generalizing that to be parent or guardian. And in the paragraph towards the bottom, second paragraph from the bottom of the second page of this policy, concussion awareness education, it previously said the board encourages the administration to implement concussion awareness and education into the phys ed or health curriculum. And again, pursuant to regulations, the district will now include those pieces. And in fact already does. Admission of non-resident students and tuition. Again, a really minor cleanup there, but we reiterated the statement about the responsible school board and the district of residence in the event that tuition is being charged, having to approve that. So it was in there twice, just to clean up. And then the last one was previously part of the regulations, but really is a separate form. It was part of IJOC-R in the past. It is now a standalone confidentiality agreement. Again, it's not new language, but it's calling out that this is a separate form that requires a signature. That's it.
No.
First reading.
Yes, that's the first reading on these. Now,
Not on your list is EFAA, meal charging. We will bring that to you at the next meeting. There was some
Okay.
cleanup. There were some optional pieces included in that weren't district specific, so we wanted to make sure we had those correct.
Perfect. All right. Looks like we have gone through the agenda appropriately. Just to review a couple things before we adjourn. As I said before, November with the budget is going to be a chock-full meeting, meeting month. So thank you in advance for making yourselves available for that. Just so folks are aware, the next building committee meeting is the 1st at 5 p.m. in the town hall. And Mike, you said before that that's going to be when some big stuff is going to be addressed and announced, and so people might want to tune in or attend the meeting if they can. The next regular school board meeting is the 2nd at 7 here in the town council chamber. And then we get into the school budget meetings. On the 7th, we have the initial school budget meeting. And did we decide that those were going to be at 7 p.m. or do we not decide time?
We have not yet made a decision, but I would welcome that decision.
7 o'clock would be
7 o'clock? Is that a minimum for everyone?
Which date is this?
The 7th.
Okay.
That would be is that a Tuesday?
So
Tuesday.
Would it be better earlier?
Elizabeth, can you do earlier?
For the initial one particularly, I think a 7 o'clock start is fine.
Okay.
And after that, we can talk.
Okay, so we'll have that one for 7 o'clock. And then the abutters meeting is on the 8th at 6 or 6:30.
Correct.
And then our next regularly scheduled meeting is on the 13th. No, that's a budget workshop.
It's a budget workshop.
What time is that?
Let's tentatively say 7 o'clock for that one as well.
And then we just, if
If
it's
we-
only gonna be an hour, so we
Yes.
could even make it whatever time we get there, but.
Yeah, we'll figure that out when we get to the first one. And then we have the tentative one on the 16th if we need it, and then the one on the 20th if that is needed also. But we'll see how those go. And again, thank you in advance for making yourself available for those. If there is not anything else that anyone has, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I'll first it.
On a motion from Ms. McKinney and a second from Mr. Kinnison,
Very smooth.
we're going to adjourn the meeting at
Stretching our vocabulary.
8:20 p.m. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Ladies, do you need anything signed, or do you
Yes,
already?
you
Catherine.